When the monsoon rains arrive every summer in Nepal, the streets turn into streams, and the landscape transforms from brown to green. On this particular July night, my then wife, Heidi, and I fell asleep in our third-floor apartment in Kathmandu, listening to the rain beat against our windows. The sound was deafening, but also strangely comforting. Heidi and I moved to Nepal in 2008, and it's hard to say what exactly prompted us to move from the quiet farmlands of Lancaster County to the bustling streets of Kathmandu. I felt like I needed a drastic change, something to break up the predictability that had become my life. We were craving an adventure, and we also wanted to see how the rest of the world lived. But sometimes Nepal offered more change than we could handle. And on those days, we would retreat to our cozy apartment, close the door to the world, and pretend that everything was okay. I remember waking up to a sunny Sunday morning. I walked into the kitchen to start a pot of coffee, and I noticed that the door to our balcony was open. And then I saw the contents of Heidi's purse strewn across the cold tile floor, business cards and coins and lipstick. It took me a few seconds to realize that we had been robbed, that someone had been in our house while we slept. They took all of our electronics, tried to break into our safe. They even took my wallet, which was on the dresser in our bedroom. Heidi and I both grew up as evangelical Christians, and we moved to Nepal in part because we wanted to help, because that's what we had been taught to do. But we quickly realized that we had little to offer. The simple answers our faith had given us didn't make sense in a complicated place like Nepal. Our brand of Christianity had little to say about the beauty and poverty that walked side by side on the streets of Kathmandu. And so instead of helping, we often found ourselves on the receiving end of Nepali generosity. Our landlords invited us to their son's wedding. The lady who sold vegetables around the corner regularly offered us unlimited cups of tea. We were given so much love, and we had done nothing to deserve it. After the break-in, I started looking at people differently. I wondered if the guy who walked up and down our street every day collecting plastic bottles could have been the thief. Or maybe it was someone Gita, our housekeeper, knew. The police asked if we suspected anyone, and I mentioned that the handyman, who occasionally did odd jobs for us, always seemed a little strange. A few days later, he called me to let me know the police had stopped by his shop to question him. I thought he would be upset. Instead, he said he was really sorry that had happened to us, and asked if there was anything he could do. A few weeks after the break-in, our phone rang, and in my broken Nepali and the caller's broken English, I figured out that we were supposed to go down to the police station. They had recovered a few items they thought were ours and needed us to identify them. With fairly low expectations, Heidi and I walked a few blocks to the station, and we were ushered into a small room. And there, a few feet away from us, standing in a line, handcuffed together, were 4 men. According to the police, these were the men who had been in our apartment. Our laptops and cameras and cell phones were spread out on a table in front of them. I don't think I'll ever forget the look on the faces of those men. They looked scared and confused and really poor. After a year of living in Nepal, it was a look that was becoming familiar to me. I saw it in the faces of young children who, instead of going to school, spent hours pounding rocks in a stone quarry to help put food on the tables for their families. I saw it in the faces of young boys around the same age as my nephews who would huff from bags of glue in one hand and beg you for money in the other. And as I looked at those men, I felt angry that our apartment, our safe space, had been violated. But I also felt really sad. Sad to recognize that we live in a world where some people have to choose between obeying the law and feeding their families. When the monsoons arrived every summer in Nepal, I wanted the rains to wash away the grime and the poverty and the injustice I saw every day. And after that dark July night, we could still close the door to our apartment, but it became a lot harder to pretend that everything was okay. Thank you.